One of the most difficult things that you need to do as a manager, as a project leader, is manage the performance of your team. And these can be daily discussions that you need to have with your team. When performance is just not up to scratch, when people are doing things they're not meant to do, or perhaps the level of skill or the level of motivation that they're bringing to a particular task is just not up to scratch. It's just not where it should be. Or maybe it's about lifting performance levels purely in terms of skill. Those conversations can be difficult to have. No one wants to have them. No one wants to be on the giving side of that conversation in terms of giving feedback, and no one wants to be on the receiving end. When people receive feedback, they can get very defensive very quickly. And so if you give feedback in a way, for example, by saying, "Oh, why did you do that? It really should have been done better." Well, that's not constructive. It doesn't actually help the individual to improve and do it differently next time. Now, I have managers come to me quite frequently asking for direction and a bit of coaching on how to have some of these conversations. What are the things that they can do? What are some ways that they can approach this that will be effective? Because so often a manager will say, "Oh, you have to improve, you have to do this differently," but there is no improvement. And the reason for that is that the individual has no direction. They actually don't know how to improve or what those expectations are. One thing you can do as a manager is, instead of telling, try asking some good questions. And we can ask questions at different levels. We have a range of questions that we can ask. And these range of questions, or levels of questions, comes from a guy called Benjamin Bloom, and he created what's become known as Bloom's taxonomy of questions. We start with very low-level questions, which are all about recalling knowledge or recalling information. So you might ask a question of an individual who's not performing well, and you might say something like this: "Tell me about the information that you used to complete this task. So where did you find some of this information?" Or, "Tell me about the process that you went through in order to undertake this task." So we call it a knowledge question. It's simply that individual recalling what they've done or recalling information. And that's a great way to start a performance conversation. But then we need to lift it a notch. We need to go up to the next level of question. Another level of questioning might be more focused on analysis. So you might say instead, "Okay, well, tell me about the information that you did receive. How did you decide which pieces of information needed to go into this particular task?" And that then helps to engage in some critical thinking. It helps that individual really learn and then really question, well, why did I choose that piece of information? Why did I choose those sources? And why did I decide that they were the things that would be useful and helpful for this particular task that I was undertaking? We can even go to higher levels of questioning. Another level is called synthesis. And the question that you might ask there is, well, if I was to give you a task again, but maybe in a slightly different context, what kind of approach do you think you would take? So that then is taking the learning from their previous example, from their previous work, and applying it to some kind of theoretical exercise into the future. So asking levels from a low level, moving it through to a mid-level, and moving it up to a high level helps to engage that individual in critical thinking and helps them to understand for themselves how they can improve their own performance without you actually telling them what to do. And it's a much more effective way to have a performance discussion. I've got a template on the website that you can download, and that outlines a range of different questions that you can ask at those different levels, the kinds of questions that are appropriate for different types of performance issues that you might be facing. We've also created a module, a training course called Leading Effective Engineering Teams. In Module 3 specifically, we talk about how to have some of these difficult conversations.